Comfort was a strong woman. She had to be. Life had not been kind to her. When she was just 20, she fell in love with a man named Cheek. He promised her the world, told her he would marry her, and make her happy forever. But when Comfort told him she was pregnant, Cheek denied the child and disappeared. Comfort thought her parents would support her, but they were furious. They told her she had brought shame to the family and sent her away. Alone and heartbroken, Comfort had no choice but to fend for herself. She found a small room to live in and worked hard as a tailor to survive. When her son, Emeka, was born, she vowed to give him all the love she never had. Comfort raised Emeka alone, pouring her heart and soul into him. She gave him everything she could, even when it meant going without herself. Comfort and Emeka were inseparable. They ate together, laughed together, and even cried together. Comfort never hid anything from Emeka. She believed in being open with him. She thought it was the best way to raise a strong and honest man. But as Emeka grew older, things began to change. Emeka was now 16 years old. He was tall, quiet, and very observant. Comfort often joked that he was her shadow because he followed her everywhere. She still treated him like her little boy, not realizing he was no longer a child. Comfort had a habit of doing everything in front of Emeka. She would dress in his presence, bathe while chatting with him, and sometimes ask him to help rub lotion on her back. To her, it was nothing. She saw Emeka as her son, her baby, but Emeka was no longer seeing her the same way. At first, Emeka didn't understand what he was feeling. He would find himself staring at his mother for too long, his heart beating fast when she smiled at him. He started to feel confused and ashamed. He loved his mother, but this love felt different. One evening, Comfort was washing herself in the small bathroom. The door was slightly open, as it always was, because their tiny house didn't allow for much privacy. Emeka was sitting outside, pretending to read a book, but his eyes kept drifting to the open door. He could see his mother's silhouette through the curtain. The way the water ran down her skin made his chest tighten. He tried to look away, but he couldn't. Something inside him was pulling him closer, and it scared him. One night, as Comfort prepared for bed, she called Emeka to help her massage her shoulders. She had been sewing all day and was feeling stiff. Emeka sat behind her on the bed, his hands trembling as he rubbed her shoulders. "Are you okay, Emeka?" Comfort asked, noticing his hesitation. "Yes, Mama," he replied quickly, but his voice was shaky. Comfort turned to look at him, her face full of concern. "You've been acting strange lately. Is something bothering you?" Emeka looked into her eyes and felt his chest tighten. He wanted to tell her the truth, to confess what he was feeling, but he was terrified. He didn't understand why he felt this way, and he knew it was wrong. Instead, he shook his head. "Nothing, Mama. I'm fine." Comfort smiled and patted his cheek. "You're my strong boy. Whatever it is, you can always talk to me." But Emeka couldn't talk to her. He didn't know how. One rainy evening, the power went out. The house was dark, and the sound of thunder filled the air. Comfort lit a candle and placed it on the table. She sat on the bed, wrapping a blanket around herself. "Emeka, come sit with me," she called. Emeka hesitated, but eventually joined her. They sat close, the warmth of the blanket covering them both. Comfort held him tightly, the way she always did when he was younger. But this time, it felt different for Emeka. The closeness, the warmth. It was too much. He felt his emotions bubbling inside him, threatening to spill over. Comfort noticed his silence. "Emeka, are you sure you're okay?" she asked softly. Before he could stop himself, Emeka leaned closer. His heart was pounding, his mind racing. Comfort froze, confused by the look in his eyes. "Emeka, what are you doing?" she whispered. Comfort's voice was shaky as she looked at her son. "Emeka, what are you doing?" she repeated, her heart pounding. Emeka froze, realizing what he was about to do. He pulled back quickly, his face filled with shame. "I'm sorry, Mama. I don't know what's wrong with me," he said, his voice breaking. Comfort frowned, her confusion turning to concern. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Emeka, talk to me. What is going on?" Emeka couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears filled his eyes as he spoke. "Mama, I feel things I don't understand. I know it's wrong, but I can't stop it. I think about you in ways I shouldn't." Comfort's eyes widened in shock. She pulled her hand away, staring at her son as if she didn't recognize him. For a moment, the room was silent except for the sound of the rain outside. "Emeka," she finally said, her voice trembling. "Do you know what you're saying? I'm your mother." "I know, Mama," Emeka cried. "I know it's wrong, but I don't know how to stop these feelings. You're all I have, and I don't know how to control it." Comfort stood up, wrapping the blanket tightly around herself. She was shaking, her mind racing. She had always been so open with Emeka, never thinking about boundaries. Now, she realized her mistake. "This is my fault," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. "I should have been more careful. I didn't think—" She stopped, unable to finish her sentence. Emeka looked up at her, his face wet with tears. "Mama, please don't hate me. I don't want to feel this way. I don't know what to do." Comfort took a deep breath, trying to calm herself. She sat down again, but this time she kept some distance between them. "Emeka," she said firmly, "what you're feeling is not love, it's confusion. I've been too close to you, and I didn't set the right boundaries. But this has to stop. You're my son, and I'm your mother. Nothing can change that." Emeka nodded, though he still looked lost. "But how do I stop these feelings, Mama?" Comfort thought for a moment. "We need help, Emeka. I can't do this alone. Tomorrow we'll go to Pastor Uche. He's a wise man and he can guide us. We'll pray about this and find a way to fix it." Emeka hesitated but finally nodded. "Okay, Mama, I'll do whatever it takes." Comfort reached out and held his hand. "I love you, Emeka. That's why we need to fix this. You're my son, and I want you to have a good life." Emeka didn't say anything, but he squeezed her hand tightly. Deep down, he hoped things could go back to normal, even though he wasn't sure how. The rain continued to fall outside, washing away the heat of the day. Inside the small house, mother and son sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts, wondering how to heal the wounds they didn't see coming.